Just like almost every other company, Palantir has gotten destroyed over the last year. This stock not only has downtrended with a lot of other stocks, but these past earnings and people's perspective of their management team has made many investors hesitant to get in, and several investors have left. But in this video, I'm going to share my thoughts on Palantir and whether or not I think this stock is still a buy. But I don't want to waste your time, so let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so let's talk about price action. Palantir hit an all-time low of $6.44 back on May 11th. But like several other stocks, they went on a really nice run. But after earnings and the stock market struggling a little bit, they have fallen back down to $7. Right now, as we're recording this video, Palantir has a market cap just over $15 billion. But let's go ahead and talk about Palantir's numbers and their business as a whole. Now, for me, when I'm assessing whether or not a company is a buy, I cannot let a single quarterly report be the reason for me to buy or sell a stock. It can influence my decision, but it cannot be the sole reason. What I saw over this past month is that many people made decisions based off of the quarterly conference call or earnings report. Unfortunately, we have seen investors who know the product very well sell because they didn't like the numbers this past quarter and some of the things that the CEO Alex Karp said. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but given the current economic environment and the fact that every other company has gotten hit by this possible recession, I just don't see now being the time to sell. Now, if they were struggling for revenues in a great economic time, then that would make me worried. When it comes to Palantir, this cannot be a buy if you're looking short term. The reality is that we don't know how long this recessionary environment will last, and Palantir is not the most undervalued stock if we were only looking in the next 6 to 12 months. But what about 5 years or 10 years from now? What is the growth opportunity not only for Palantir, but the entire data analytics and artificial intelligence space? It is massive. And think about who are the people that are buying Palantir right now. It's not going to be people wanting a trade because short term it may be fairly valued. But those who are buying Palantir are long-term investors who don't care much about what is going on quarter over quarter, but it's more so looking at where the company is going to be 3, 5, and 10 years from now. And who would be the people selling Palantir? There aren't many. So if you're thinking about investing in Palantir or adding shares to Palantir, you need to ask the question, how long are you willing to be in this one? Plus, when you think about the kind of people who are buying this company, they are intelligent people who are either engineers or business people who have used the products or simply just understand the products at a very high level. These products, in my opinion, will be important for the future, and not because I'm a Palantir bull, but because when you consider the data analytics space, how many companies want very descriptive data? It's expanding by the second. Now, over time, many companies will want guidance when it comes to using that data to generate outputs on what are some of the best business decisions. I mean, who wouldn't want that? And until I see a very strong competitor pop out in this space, it is difficult for me to not see Palantir becoming a massive company. But the reality is that this space is big enough for multiple competitors, and that is something I don't think many people understand or believe. This TAM over the next 5 to 10 years is going to be enormous, and so I wouldn't doubt seeing 3 to 5 companies actually thrive in this environment. Now let's look at the kind of revenue, because for many people, this was a piece of the earnings report that was disappointing. First, their government revenue wasn't strong as they only grew 13% year over year. As of now, this is the main part of their business in terms of the majority of revenue. But as I look deeper into this, I needed to ask myself the question, how long will this last? When we look at the US commercial revenue, they grew 120%, which is fantastic growth. But I think something that people missed is that the US commercial revenue has taken more of their overall revenue. The US commercial business went from 10% of the overall revenues last year to 17% this year. And I have to ask the question, where are they going to be next year or the year after that? I wouldn't doubt their US commercial revenue to be 40 or 50% of their revenue in the next 5 years. And if we're honest, most of their TAM is going to come from this area anyway. So I don't see this as a big issue. And this is where I want to draw our focus, which is the Foundry and Apollo platforms. These two pieces of Palantir are what's going to drive the company to the next level. Now, in the earnings report, they made a slide that said, your future, build on Foundry. What AWS was in the last decade, Foundry will be in the next. Now, I'm not going to sit here and try to persuade people that this product will do just that. But what if Foundry became half of AWS? If this happens, which if you think about it, many would say that AWS is one of the only things that is holding up Amazon's market cap, and many value just that part of the business around $500 billion. So if Foundry is half of that, Palantir would easily 10x in share price. This doesn't even include Gotham or Apollo. Now, I'm not saying that the Foundry product will be that big, even though I think it could, but this puts things into perspective, because now even a quarter of AWS would still be a massive run. And this is a big reason why when you look at the major investors, they are investing in this company for Foundry, with Apollo being the cherry on top. Also, they grew their customer count 80% year over year. If I was an investor, I can't complain about this because this means that they're getting more deals. And I would much rather have more deals for a little bit less revenue than not as many deals with greater revenue. The more Palantir sells their product, the more users get to experience the platforms and the more businesses can prove to other businesses how good the product actually is. Also, when we look at the average revenue for their customers, there is a pretty good size difference year over year with almost 20% growth. I mean, think about it, almost $50 million per customer. That is a lot. And what happens when they continue to expand their customer count? They could continue to get more and more of some of the higher revenue contracts. Okay, now let's talk about the balance sheet. The company currently has $2.4 billion in cash with no debt and an undrawn credit facility. What that tells me is that when it comes to safety of the stock, it is difficult to see this company going to $0. And especially in this recessionary environment, having that amount of cash is nice to have in case something drastic does happen. One thing that I've seen from people who sold is that Palantir has taken some massive losses from their investments and SPACs. And let me just tell you, unless you have invested in a company like SG Blocks, which is a company I own, you are down on almost every single company that you have bought over this past year. In terms of stock-based compensation, they are planning on bringing this down, even though I think that stock-based compensation is actually helping Palantir get the top engineers to make the best products. So I think that this argument, honestly, just is not good enough. Unless 2023 they decide to ramp stock-based compensation more than this year, I don't see this as something that should be worried about too much. The last thing that I will say is that their revenue growth has not been as high as people want. However, what we need to consider is that everyone is getting hit badly. So the fact that Palantir is still growing over 20% in this kind of environment is not bad at all. We have honestly been spoiled by Palantir's growth. And now that they are missing due to a macroeconomic situation, people are selling left and right. But this all comes back to what I was saying before. Where is the company going to be 5 to 10 years from now? If you are a bear of Palantir, you would have to expect revenues to slow drastically. And if they're growing this much during a recession where businesses don't have as much money to spend, then what is going to happen when they do have the money to spend? And that is a huge reason why this $3.5 billion in remaining deals is not bad at all. The reality is that we are going to be moving toward more things using data analytics and artificial intelligence. And unless you believe that Palantir's product is not going to be useful 5 years from now, it is hard to justify Palantir's share price. The earnings report was not that bad. And I believe the only reason why it was bad to some people is because they had such high expectations that when they missed, it made it look like it was the worst thing in the world. But here's something that I find interesting. Many people that had sold Palantir predicted them to be a massive company. And because of their lower growth, they decided to sell because they expected those revenues to fall. And this is where I think perspective is key. What if instead of the $100 billion company that many people were expecting, they became a $65 billion company? That would still be over 4x the current share price. And this is why I honestly believe you need to run the numbers for yourself. Now, personally, I'm holding this one for the long term, and here's why. When we think about their products and services in 5 to 10 years, they will be well established and their current customers will be using the product for a long time. So we will have an idea as to what their track record really looks like. Secondly, when we think about an operating system, it takes time for people to really buy in. But once people see that the product is good, which as I said before, many high-level engineers really enjoy this product, these businesses will start buying the products that Palantir offers. And even now, they are bringing out new products and services which will impact the company in the years to come. When we think about the big tech companies, they did not just beat every quarter and act like it was a smooth ride. No, it was a grind for them. And I think we must view Palantir in the same way. They are in an industry that will change the world. And so there is going to be a roller coaster to get to where they need to be. So I'm still adding shares. And with my cost basis in the $10 range, I would love to bring that down to single digits. And I think I will. When I think about the kind of people who are investing in this company and the fact that now the majority of the people are in the company for the long term, plus the company is still able to generate 20% revenue growth in a recession with a huge growth potential in front of them, to me, it's a no-brainer to keep adding this one. But I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and if you did, smash that like button down below. That helps this channel in a massive way. Also, I would love to hear your thoughts on Palantir, so let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. That way you are notified when new content comes out. Hope y'all enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you in the next one.